Welcome, my 32 subscribers, everyone on Wrestling Reddit, and people who like to cheer loudly in wrestling shows, because on June the 7th, DDT has announced that they'll be lifting the cheering ban. Fans will be able to cheer loudly for their favorite wrestlers again, just like before the plague. So this show is set in Koroku Hall, so thank God. It's a bigger arena that can house more people, but it's not too packed. And the audio here is a lot better. Everything here looks a lot better than the last show. But sadly, they drew 10 less fans as compared to the one at Shinjuku Face. But this one has English commentary, and then I can finally understand what they're saying. So the show starts out with the announcement that, again, I've said it, the cheering ban is being lifted on July the 7th. So finally, this is nothing but good for the product. It's gonna help build enthusiasm for the people at home, as well as orient the newer viewers as to who are the heels or the faces in the matches. Then after this, we get the boy band faction from Cyberfight. So Mao, Shunma, Yuki Ueno, and Toi Kojima plug their appearance to a Japanese TV show that I have no idea what it's about, but it looks like the sort of Japanese TV show that the Trash Taste Boys don't like very much. The reaction cams, it looks like a variety show. Someone from Japan educate me, please. Yeah, they plug this appearance, and I love how DDT is getting their dudes on a major TV program. And they do this for a couple of minutes, they do their pose, they introduce themselves, and then they plug their show nonstop. And after this, we get a recap of Cyberfight, as well as previous show, the results of the tournament so far, and the reason why one of them gets a bye. And we'll see him in action right now. And that's Takanashi, who was supposed to face Endo, but we all know what happened. Betrayal happened. And then we get the DDT show intro, and it looks pretty good. As a minor promotion in Japan, it actually looks pretty legit and would believably be on TV. So for the first match in the show proper, is Damnation TA versus Eruption. So that's MJ Paul and KANON versus Yukio Sakaguchi and Hideki Okatani. So this being a Damnation match, after watching two events where they wrestled, I already expected there to be a lot of cheating, a lot of heel work, a lot of dickishness basically from Damnation, and they do it. I like how they wrestle like heels. They cut the ring in half, things that Noah sometimes forgets, especially in the heavyweight tag team matches. Here, Damnation never forgets who they are. They wrestle heel. Because sometimes when I'm watching Pro Wrestling Noah, it's like watching just two singles wrestlers wrestling a tag team match. But my problem with Damnation and other DDT matches is that they bury the ref. So in this match, clearly, MJ Paul has a chair. The referee isn't distracted or anything, and then he throws it at Okatani's back. This should be a fucking DQ. What am I watching? Is this ECW? Is this GCW? It's not. So yeah, referees shouldn't be made to look this dumb. They should at least distract the ref before doing this. So that's both visually and auditory. So basically in this match, Okatani is the whipping boy. He takes damage and then eventually gets the hot tag to the stronger member of the team, who is Yukio Sakaguchi. And holy shit, Sakaguchi, hard kicks, great striker. It's a shame that he's not younger. Everything he does looks legit and impactful, just like the previous show. And I like how both tag team members are tagged in multiple times. There is actual teamwork happening. There is a structure to the tag team match. And it's not just one guy goes in, does his stuff, and then goes out. And I think this is the sort of change of pace that I would like in an AEW tag team match. Not every match has to be a balls to the wall show stealer. This is a nice opening match that is exciting enough and has some interesting stuff happen in it that would get a crowd into a show. So now for the top 3 spots of the match. These are all kind of simple. Like, number 3 is the usual slap that KANON does that knocks Okatani off the top turnbuckle. Number 2 is a running knee by Sakaguchi on KANON while he's like laying flat on the top turnbuckle. And the top spot of the match has to be the finish. And it's because this is a count out done right. Because like I mentioned, the match between Michael Elgin and Rene Dupree, the finish was kind of dumb because they just like didn't care for the result of the match. They didn't even try to get in. And early in that match, Elgin pointed at the ring because he wanted to keep the match in the ring. But in the end, they contradict themselves and then they just like fight outside. But in this one, at like count 18 or 19, KANON was trying to get in the ring. But then Okatani just pulls him off and prevents him from entering. So this gets both of them counted out, and Okatani might have had enough time to enter and continue the match, but you have to admit they do it better here than with Elgin versus Rene Dupree. So the next match is a shoot kickboxing match between the team of, it's a tag team kickboxing match between the team of Shinya Aoki and Toi Kojima versus Hikaru Machida and Gota Ihashi. And my god, this was so dumb. I'm not even gonna review it. It's not worth your time. Just skip this match, honestly. Okay, so the next match is, like on paper, very, very one-sided. Because this is between the team of, like a bunch of giants, basically. Tall guy Chris Brookes, Yuki Ishida, who's like a sort of like cruiserweight sumo wrestler. Yukio Naya. We know him from the previous show, a tall dude, but not so smart. He's sort of like a Frankenstein and Igor. And Yuji Hino, who's just a badass. Versus two young lions in Yusuke Okada and Yuya Koroku. And two members of the Kamina stable. And that's Mao and Shunma Katsumata. So the match starts out like I described it. The bigger dudes dominate. And then, like, we get some funny stuff. Some psychological warfare from the smaller dudes to, like, give them, like, a boost up against the bigger dudes. So we have Shunma Katsumata just shouting neck power over and over again, which rattles the shit out of Chris Brookes, so this makes him tag out. Yuki Ishida is maybe the least spectacular person in the big dude team. And then when Yuji Hino gets tagged in, like, Shunma stops all the neck power bullshit, and then he tags in a young lion, Yuya Koroku, who gets destroyed by Hino. And then he has to go through like two big dudes. Hino tags in Naya, and then he just continues to get destroyed, but then somehow he regains control, and then he manages to tag in the most competent member of his team, and that's Mao. And so this might be the best tag of this entire match, because so much funny shit happens here, and then we get some character development for Naya. So when Mao gets tagged in, him and Shunma go to the enemy side, and then they knock all of them off. They try to knock off Hino, but he just like no-sells it and then goes down by himself. This was like pretty funny to start things off. And then they go for an awesome like splash move that the Lucha Brothers do. So this already adds to the heat of this confrontation here between Mao and Naya. And then we have the best part of the match. They engage in a strike battle where Mao is clearly losing. So he resorts in some psychological bullshit, points to the crowd, and then sort of like fools Naya to believe that his grandfather is out there in the stands. And then here is like the character development I've been waiting for and I really love in like wrestling. It turns out Naya's character is like an immature sort of doofus big guy In a match, you can't overpower the guy because he's just like the biggest dude in the roster, but you can attack him with strategy and like in a psychological and mental battle. Because Mao just like causes him to cry. They tease him and then we sort of get on Naya's side and Naya kicks their ass. But eventually he goes back to crying and then he leaves the ring. Spot of the match right here. And the guy can cry. Jesus Christ, this guy can fucking act like a doofus. This gimmick might be offensive in America, but they do it well here in Japan. His gimmick is like a developmentally stunted big dude. And then when he tearfully tags Chris Brookes back in the ring, Chris Brookes does an octopus stretch, which is one of my favorite moves, number 3 spot in the match. And then Mao tries the same trick he did with Naya, but it doesn't work. After this, Chris Brookes tags in Hino, Mao tags in Okada, so another Okada young lion, and Hino just toys with him. In regular Hino fashion, he arrogantly like lets the kid hit him, and then he no-sells everything. He sort of gets like this head pat moment, like there. You'll be able to do it one day. And then that day comes when like Okada calls out for like one of his teammates for like a suplex, like a double suplex. But when Koroku joins in, they're still not able to do it. So here comes my number 2 spot of the match, the triple suplex by Mao, Koroku, and Okada on Hino. After this, Shunma and Ishida get tagged in, and this is like the last tag, but it's also the most tense-filled. It's filled with like effective false finishes. But my problem with this last part is that Ishida's teammates, like, they just forget to help him. They just watch outside, even if they're clearly more powerful than the opponents that are holding them back, who are just basically young lions. So the finish is Kaminari do their finisher, which is like a power bomb and neck breaker combo. It gets the job done, and somehow they win the match against the bigger opponents. So this was a fun match. It was a lot better than the first one, and yeah, this could be at the undercard of a bigger show or a pay-per-view. A great match. So after this, we get 2 announcements by the president of DDT, Sanshiro Takagi. So for the first one, he's accompanied by this dude in a suit. It's said that he's a politician and he's a former like heavy metalweight champion. Yeah, this guy is a politician, and then he announces that he will be joining DDT for real, like as a regular wrestler. So the people in the arena give him a round of applause, but I don't really know this person. So this announcement was kind of whatever, but it's kind of cool to have like a politician like take part in wrestling and actually train for real. It's gonna bring more eyes to the product, and it's gonna like legitimize the product even more. And then for the second announcement, it's announced that Joey Janela is gonna be at Peter Pan, and he's gonna have a match, a singles hardcore match against Shunma Katsumata. So both Joey Janela and, oh my god, I forgot to say his name. So this politician's name is Shinichiro Kawamatsu. So him and Janela are gonna make their debut at like the biggest DDT show. It's like their WrestleMania. It's Peter Pan on August 20. And I don't know if I'll be able to make a review of that since I'll be like a lot more busy. So as a new watcher, I'm not very excited with these announcements. It might be a bigger deal to perennial fans, but to me, I don't think Joey Janela is that good. But he is being placed in a match that he is like best at. Like, he is a master of hardcore matches, and I expect his match will be good, but I hope we'll get like bigger announcements, like AEW wrestlers joining the Peter Pan show. So now for the tournament matches. First we have Masahiro Takanashi, the guy who got the bye, who was supposed to face Tetsuya Endo, and I assume lose to him also, is facing off against badass Kazusada Higuchi. So Higuchi just beat like the biggest dude in the company. Biggest as in by height. because the widest is Hino. So it's established that Higuchi is a badass. He's one of the stronger wrestlers of the show against Takanashi, who's like more of a comedy guy. He is like tactically there, but physically not really. So from the start, this is a mismatch, and Takanashi has no business like winning this match clean. So what he does is a bunch of like shenanigans. Like early on, it's really good, but when we get to the last one that leads to the ending, it's pretty bad. So first, Takanashi appears to be making his entrance, but then it turns out that it's not him. He enters from behind and then starts his attack on Higuchi. This barely works, and he's eventually overpowered by Higuchi, and so he leaves. It looks like he's giving up, and then the ref starts a countout. But then, two people, like the one who posed as Higuchi a while ago, as well as a new guy, like appear to be like spinning all the way to the ring. But this is another distraction, and then Takanashi appears behind again. But of course, this doesn't work. Higuchi still overpowers him, so even triplet magic doesn't work. And then Higuchi gets Takanashi in like a backbreaker, in like a gory special submission. And then this is the stupidest among all of the interferences. Like a masked guy on like the timekeeper's table started ringing the bell and playing some music. It turns out to be another distraction that doesn't lead to anything spectacular. And eventually, Takanashi gets clawed and then slammed for the 1-2-3. So for a comedy match, this is at its optimal length, so like 5 minutes. The stronger dude defeats the smaller dude. The serious one defeats the less serious one in short amount of time. So this was okay. Higuchi does better in more serious type matches. He plays it too straight in this comedy match, and I don't think it's suited for this guy. He is no Keno, who is incredibly versatile. So this match is suited for an undercard, to like a TV or a minor show. The comedy isn't really that funny, and for Takanashi's only appearance, it's sort of a weak one. This didn't really help Higuchi out as well. I mean, he looked strong for not falling for the like interruptions, but yeah, this was like a meh match. After this is like a weird pairing. It's Jun Akiyama, the Pro Wrestling Noah legend, versus Yuki Sexy Iino. So, like, on paper, we know what this match is gonna be. Akiyama is gonna have to like stoop to that level of wrestling. He's gonna have to perform what I think is Sanshiro Takagi's Sex Fantasies, starring pheromones. So yeah, that's exactly what it turns out being. So first of all, props to Jun Akiyama for having the versatility and the willingness to fucking wrestle this style of match. So Jun Akiyama, unlike others who wrestled Yuki, he manages to fare better. He manages to overpower him. He basically is in the driver's seat for most of the match. I can't say that for most of his victims. But Akiyama, without armor, without anything, manages to like dominate Yuki in the majority of the match. But eventually, it has to happen. Akiyama ate some ass. Gets hung on the turnbuckle, like upside down in the tree of woe position, and then Yuki just goes to town on him. And this has to be the spot of the match, considering who Yuki is doing this to. And then after this, we get the number 3 spot in the match, where Yuki tries to further desecrate Akiyama, but like with the tube that like he uses. But Akiyama puts this in the mouth of a young lion. So true to form of like these older dudes, they managed to abuse the young lions, but I can't blame him here. And then for the finish, after some antics with the vacuum cleaner, it's not really that special. For the finish, I'm actually going to move all of the spots of the match because this is it. Akiyama ties Iino into like a package. just like how Zack Sabre Jr. and Sanada, how they do it. He ties him up in a package and then he just goes full on Zackley or full on the monsters from Gyo. Like if you read those manga or watch that anime, you'd get it. So Akiyama puts the tube, like one side on Yuki's mouth and then the other on his ass. Then the match ends this way. It's a referee stoppage. Great way to end the match. And again, props to Jun Akiyama for stooping to this level of match. This could have been on a pay-per-view, like on the undercard, to be like a comedy match, a novelty match for like a legend wrestler, but yeah, this was alright. This might be my favorite Yuki match. So for the penultimate match, this is Daisuke Sasaki versus Yuki Ueno. And for me, this is a tale of two halves in this match. So the first half is where all the cheating happens, even if like Daisuke Sasaki fakes out like sending off his boys so that he won't cheat. He pretends to have like an honorable match, but later on, early in the match, like after a couple of minutes basically, his boys come back and then they put their hands on Yuki Ueno. And this is my biggest criticism of the match. Like, they're visibly attacking one of the competitors and the referee isn't disqualifying them. So this is so dumb. It's my same complaint in every Sasaki match. Like, why even distract the ref if it's just like ECW rules, GCW rules, if it's like a no DQ match every match? And then the Kaminari 37 faction is in Yuki Ueno's corner and they're doing nothing. Their boy is being attacked and they're not even helping out. I mean, if they helped out, it would have made like the referee thing somewhat excusable, but no. Kaminari was pretty useless in this match. So yeah, the first half of the match is where the cheating happens. We get some nice crossface transitions from Sasaki. And it was basically heading towards like an ordinary match that could end in shenanigans or whatever, like the typical Daisuke Sasaki fashion if it's not a hardcore match. But instead, we get a fucking banger because to delineate the second half of the match from the first, Sasaki gets a chair and then again visibly hits Ueno in the face with it. And it's one of those well-gimmicked Japanese chairs where the seat pops off so you can hit an opponent with it unprotected. So he does this, he hits him fucking hard in the head with a chair, and then after like we leave Yuki Ueno alone, the camera follows Sasaki. I don't know if it's like blood capsules or if Ueno bladed, but shit. His face becomes covered with a crimson mask. Then I love how he sells this, how he just like when he's standing up, he drops right back to the floor. This happens twice in two separate occasions, but this is a great way to sell this. And then holy shit, like right after this, we get a 5-star match. The color, the blood, whatever you want to call it, elevates the drama of the match. Because this puts a time limit on Ueno. Like in kayfabe, he can bleed out after a long period of time. He's basically getting weaker and weaker like as time goes by. So when Ueno gets back in the ring, holy shit, Sasaki just like works on the cut and then like he just puts Ueno in a bunch of submission moves like an inverted rings of Saturn, like a bunch of cross faces with some nice transitions. But then Ueno regains control when he finally does a Daisuke Harada-esque belly to belly on Sasaki. And then we get the number 2 spot of the match. This is when Ueno dropkicks Sasaki off of the top turnbuckle. And then he immediately goes for an Asai moonsault, taking out all of Damnation. Then shortly after this, when Sasaki is thrown back into the ring, and then Ueno follows and then hits him with a fucking Shining Wizard while Sasaki is like fully standing up. So officially, Ueno is my favorite Shining Wizard doer in the business right now. It's better than The Boom by Adam Cole, and it's a hell of a lot better than Keiji Muto's Shining Wizard. But this is not one of the spots of the match. The third spot of the match comes after this, where Yuki Ueno does like a BME. He attempts a BME, but Sasaki gets his knees up. This opens him up for a pedigree, which fucking stains the floor. So this is number 3 spot of the match. And then when Ueno kicked out of the pedigree, he does a crossface like right after the pin. I fucking love this. All of this is number 3 spot of the match. And if you're wondering where is the number 1 spot of the match, it's the chair shot, because Ueno did an outside dive earlier. And so Sasaki threw the chair at him, and then like this is immediately followed by the hard chair shot to the head, which is like no doubt the spot of the match. And then like after that, the Crimson Mask on Ueno, it's just like unbeatable. And so the finish of the match is like shortly after the pedigree. After Sasaki hits the pedigree, Ueno hits him with a face buster, and then Sasaki somehow does a Hurricane Rana on him, goes for the pin. Ueno transitions this to a pin of his own, and then right after Sasaki kicks out, Ueno does his finisher, like the WR, which is like a reverse DDT. Like he goes the other way, but Sasaki is still spiked on his head. And after like thinking about how the move works, after watching it a couple of times, it actually looks pretty good. This is an awesome finisher. I like it more than the BME. So yeah, after all of that, Yuki Ueno wins and advances to the next round. So this could have been the main event of a pay-per-view. This match was so fucking good. This might be the best match of the tournament so far, by a lot. And so I'm impressed. This is like the best DDT match I've seen so far. And it involves that dastardly cheating bastard, Daisuke Sasaki, who like ruins all of his matches with the fucking cheating. But yeah, despite like the stupid ref moments and Kaminari 37 being useless, this was a really good fucking match, and you should watch it. So for the main event, it is between Naomi Yoshimura and Harashima. So basically, the two guys who opened the show last time main event this show. And the start of this match like looked promising. They started like doing actual wrestling, and then they went for specific body parts. So Harashima went for Naomi's ribs, while Naomi went for Harashima's back. But neither of them follow through with it. Like, it doesn't play a factor to the end of the match. They just use it to like complete various moves. Like, for example, Naomi goes for Harashima's back in order to powerbomb him. But the powerbomb doesn't really happen until like later on in the match. But this does turn into like a main event paced, like epic style Japanese match where their moves get harder as the match goes on. They start moving heavier. Their moves start feeling more impactful. And hell, they even have like the fighting spirit Japanese strike battle. But after basically watching like both nights back to back, I'm sort of desensitized to like this style of match. And like the drama did not get to me as it should have. They just didn't do anything spectacular like the previous match did, the main event of the last show did. This was just like kind of ordinary. But I do have spots of the match, so let's start off with number 3. Number 3 is the finish, where Naomi like yells out Harashima, and then he runs to Harashima, and then Harashima, I said his name 3 times now, he does a hard enziguri, and then this is followed by a kick, and so Harashima is going for the Bomaye, but as he goes for this, he gets caught in a fireman carry position, and then a Shoten for the win. Number 2 spot is like a hanging superplex, where Naomi holds Harashima in place for like a couple of seconds, and then he does the superplex. And because this is like a visually impressive spot, it got a reaction. This gets number 2. And then for the spot number 1, I know I don't like this move being a finisher, and it doesn't really finish him here, but Naomi does like the judo hip throw on Harashima as he goes for like a springboard move. So this match didn't really top the last one, and I think I enjoyed the third opening match better than this one. I totally think that Ueno and Sasaki should have main evented. If this was placed before that one, I would have responded to this better because my expectations would be lower since it's like lower on the card. But yeah, this is the main event we get, and the previous match outshined this one. So after all the matches, we get like a sort of drawing of the next matches. So all the semifinals like make an entrance, but Yoshimura like stays from the main event. And so the semifinal matches end up being Ueno versus Yoshimura since they drew the blue balls. And then Akiyama versus Higuchi, who drew the green balls. Okay, so night 2 of the King of DDT tournament was actually kind of better than the first. The opening matches really helped. Not jumping to the tournament matches like really helps pump up the crowd and makes room for a bunch of show stealers like we had here. The third match was pretty much a show stealer, and the second match, like the kickboxing one, was just garbage. First one was okay, and they did the double count out finish better than Noah did. And as for the tournament matches, only like 1 out of the 4 didn't hit for me, and that's the Higuchi match. Jun Akiyama got ass to the face and then beat the shit out of Iino, so that was pretty fun. Ueno and Sasaki had a banger. I really enjoyed this match. This is the best of the whole tournament so far. And Naomi Yoshimura versus Harashima was okay. It shouldn't have main evented. Expectation was too high, and yeah, but it was still like a really good match. So yeah, so by this time, you've already seen my match rankings. I kind of forget to say, like, here are my match rankings earlier. So when I'm saying my conclusion, you'll be able to, like, see it as I'm talking. And, like, it'll be longer than just, like, posting it, like, after everything. So that's the end of the review. Like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you don't know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos. And please, watch my shit.